Hey everybody, and welcome back to Double Your Sales Now. Today we are going to talk about cold calling techniques that really work in a pandemic. And we are with Jody Weinberg, who owns a cold calling company, which is going to be awesome. So Jody, thank you so much for being on the show today and for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you here. I know I've known you for years now, we can say that.
Yeah.
And when I thought we had this, we had you scheduled to be on the show, and then everything in the world shifted. And I thought, well, how perfect that we're going to have Jody on the show. We're going to talk about cold calling and what's going on. So today, as we record this, it's March 18th, 2020. In case you're listening in the future and wondering what we're talking about and when we were talking about this. And we in the United States are just in the middle of, just at the beginning of really a full quarantine, a full shutdown in the US. Restaurants closed, and there's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of panic out there. And our intention today is really to bring some inspiration and to remind you that we truly are all in this together. I've been having a lot of flashbacks to the Great Recession, especially when we were in California, when everything was awesome. And then we woke up one day and everything was pretty much decimated. And Tim and I looked at each other. We had 6 mortgages to pay, a ton of real estate we couldn't manage anymore. And we thought, what are we going to do? And as I look back on that, we made the decision that no matter what, we were going to make our way back. And we have, and we continue to. And I feel much more resilient than I did, then, because what I know is that things move forward again. It's the law of nature, Jody. And I know we're going to be talking about that. Like, things always keep moving. They don't stop. So the question you're asked to ask yourself is, when things start to come back, are you going to be on the front of this? Are you going to be leading? And right now is the time to be reaching out to your customers, even just to have a conversation to say hello. So we'll talk about that today and why it's important. Before we get there, before I introduce Jody, I just want to remind you to get our free gift. If you go to salescoachnow.com/gift, you'll get a PDF called 6 Secrets to Doubling Your Sales. Super easy to download. Put it in front of you. It's got some great tips that you can implement immediately. Also, because you are a podcast listener, we would love to invite you to one of our future sales camps. I'm confident they're going to come back. They're going to come back. We're going to get together live again. And when they come back, we'd love to have you there. Because you're a listener, we do offer a super, super special price point for you to come to sales camp. If you're interested, if you feel like that would help you get your sales back up where you want them to be, you can simply email us at contact@salescoachnow.com. In the subject line, put sales camp, and my team will get that to you. If you are enjoying the show, please leave us a review on iTunes, because that helps other people learn about the show and see if it's going to be a fit for them. And I want to thank you guys. Because of you, we just hit number 62 in the country, in the US, on iTunes in the category of marketing. And that couldn't have happened without all of you amazing listeners, not only in the US, but around the world. So thank you. We're with you. So with that, let me tell you about Jody. First of all, I love Jody. I love her family. I've gotten to know them over the last few years, and they are committed to business. They are committed to their clients' success. And I only bring people on the podcast who I have the greatest respect for. And how can you not respect someone whose business is cold calling, right? So Jody packs the punch with her business success, striving for 100% customer satisfaction rate. As founder CEO of Teleconnections, her team excels at setting high-level, qualified sales appointments with decision makers for B2B professional services. Jody's a dynamic speaker and award-winning for DECA and Toastmasters. JTEL knows how to get through to the decision maker, and they make it happen. For over 28 years, Teleconnections has built a reputation as extremely unique and a boutique shop that does what they say. They connect people and gain intelligence. And they have a really amazing proven track record for solid meetings with decision makers that are qualified. They have experienced a 40 to 700%, I had to look at that closely, amazing ROI, return on investment, with the work that they do for their clients. And Jody was born and raised in Minnesota, so she also attended the University of Minnesota before venturing into the working world. She and her staff opened doors for medium and enterprise companies, doors to companies like small brands like Calvin Klein. Personally for her, Johnson & Johnson, Citigroup, and many international law firms, to name a few. They've also been involved in fundraising for the Paul Edelman Children for Charities annual golf tournament and Children's Hospital. Haiti Outreach, and the Professional Sales Association, and more. So Jodi, thank you for being here. I want to say congratulations. You and your company were recently featured in the Star Tribune. And for our international listeners, and maybe even some of our US listeners, the Star Tribune is the main newspaper in the Twin Cities area. So congratulations on that. And I want you to start just by telling us about what was in the article. What was your story? Like, how in the world, there's not a lot of women in the sales space, right? Like, how in the world did you get into cold calling and then decide to start a company focused on cold calling?
Thank you. And I want to congratulate you for being number 62 in iTunes. That's very impressive. I remember when you kind of just started the podcast thing.
I know, right?
Wow, that's cool. The article, which is also online and people can get it online, talks about why cold calling is still effective versus technology. We all have to have the technology with it, but if you don't have the human one-to-one contact, then it's sort of like things just fall into cyberspace. We really believe, my team and I, that the connection comes from picking up the telephone and getting through to the decision maker.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about the other things that were in the article today in terms of just some of the tips you have. So we'll get there. So I want to start, we always start by talking about limiting beliefs. And for those of you who are listening, I want to remind you to get out a piece of paper and a pen because you're going to want to take some notes. So take us back, Jodi, take us to the beginning of your career. I mean, I know you're super confident. I feel like a lot of things don't probably scare you, but was there ever a time when you had any limiting beliefs about sales? Okay, tell us.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been at this for 30 years. I've had my company for 20 this month, actually. But when I started, the first 10 years, I was an employee of a couple of very large insurance brokers doing business-to-business appointment setting for commercial insurance.
Okay.
And I just kind of fell into it. People in the community know that my former life was credit and collections and public speaking. So I'm not afraid to talk and I'm not afraid to pick up a phone.
Right.
So the company, the large insurance broker I was working for got bought out by a major conglomerate and shut down their satellite offices. I was one of them, which is when I went on my own 20 years ago. And I just thought, how am I ever going to do this? Now, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, but in my day, women were not raised to be a working entrepreneur.
Sure.
So I was very scared. I did not think that, I thought, well, I'll try it, but my kids were babies at the time. Actually, my firstborn was 3 months old.
Oh my.
And I wanted to be at home. So hence the remote operation.
Yeah.
But I was afraid. I was afraid of how I was going to, really make a business out of cold calling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so take us through the process of a baby in your arm, you're launching the company anyway, you're moving forward. Was there a moment when you doubled your sales for the first time, or you got enough clients where you're like, wow, all of a sudden we're profitable, we're moving forward? And what did you believe about cold calling and sales at that point?
Yes, there was a time. It was year 2.
Okay.
And business really, everything was referrals at that point. And, word got out in the community that there was actually this firm that really did what they said. And we weren't telemarketing. And we've actually played with our 30-second commercial several times. Now we have it down to, we set high-level sales appointments that are qualified with hard-to-reach decision makers. But we've had tons of 30-second commercials prior to that. So yes, I doubled my sales. We lived in an apartment. I used to call out of the yellow pages. And my insurance client would rip pages out of the yellow pages, which was horrible.
Wow.
And I worked out of a recipe box with recipe cards. And my daughter would sit in her little infant seat, and at about 4 or 5 months, they start cooing and making noise. And that was the point where I shipped her off to my mother twice a week. But yeah, year 2 was more business than I brought on another person at that point.
Wow.
So what were my limiting beliefs? That, wow, I really have a business here. I really have something that people need. But it just all came very naturally to me, this
Yeah.
appointment setting thing.
Wow. We're going to talk
Yeah.
about why it's natural for you and how we can all learn to make it more natural.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, well, first I want to say thank you for sharing the story about like we can all relate to what it's like to start a company. And I think how inspiring that it's like, I mean, you were a mom with a 3-month-old starting a company and no matter what, you didn't quit. And I'm curious, I want to get into your mind for a minute, Jody. And this is not a question that I gave you ahead of time, so bear with me.
Sure.
But I think it's important for the time that we're in. Like there had to have been moments when you wanted to quit. I mean, when you were like, you lost a client, there's no money coming in. I've got kids, I'm still in an apartment. What the heck was I thinking? Like, what did you tell yourself in those moments when you wanted to stop?
Oh, that was actually year 4, I remember. Um, I was really scared because I lost a very large client because I was young and dumb. And they asked for their database to review, and I gave it to them. Actually, my right-hand gal gave it to them, and they quit 2 weeks later. And they were 2/3 of my business at that time. And I just felt very scared. I thought, oh my God, am I ever going to make it back? And am I going to have to go into the working world, like go to brick and mortar and leave the kids? And I just worked even harder because I was not going to go back to putting pantyhose and high heels on. I was not.
So the motivation to not have to go back to a job and to put pantyhose on and to be expected to be some there was, that motivation was much greater than your fear of stopping.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, I think we can all relate to that. And there must have been a part of you that believed if you could do it, you could do it again.
A true entrepreneur has to believe that. I mean, if somebody gives you, a golden nugget and helps, I mean, there's plenty of businesses that come from, where, somebody introduces them to somebody and they, it's the dream, right? But if you really build it, if you're really a self-builder, you have to believe that. Yeah, and I saw people winning. I saw clients closing, and that's the most important part of this. I mean, is it fun to pick up the phone and cold call? Not really, but is it fun to see your clients win? Absolutely.
Yeah, and right. Well, so here's what's interesting too. Even though technology has changed a lot, and certainly now we have Zoom and we can see each other, and it's different. I'm guessing a lot of your work still happens by phone, like a simple telephone call without video, and like that tool hasn't changed.
No.
And the people on the other end do still answer.
Yes, well, there are databases out there that you can find things about a person, and they do answer, and you've got to be very, very savvy and very professional. So we are not a telemarketing operation. We do not hire kids out of call rooms, the mortgage, the auto industry. These people that work for me are very seasoned, mature, and professional. They know how to perform on their feet. They know how to get through to an executive, and they know how to pitch them in 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's a very short version. I may have a chance.
Well, right. We'll dig into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think the point is that it's not dead out there. It's still a tool.
No.
So let's jump into that. I mean, for anyone who's sitting out there saying, and I hear it, I'm sure you hear it regularly, cold calling is dead. Nobody does cold calling anymore. That's a thing of the past. Like, if you're not using technology, you're falling behind the times. And I think, no, if your business, not every business can cold call, because some clients will say, we never cold call. And for them, some of them they shouldn't, it doesn't make sense or whatever.
Right.
Other businesses could completely be winning a lot more accounts if they knew and understood the art of cold calling. So that's my worldview on it. I want to hear your worldview. And what do you say to someone who's like, cold calling is dead?
Well, that's a very common question and a good one, especially for this article. I actually just turned a local prospective client around that one of my people called him to set a meeting for me because we practice what we preach.
Right.
And he was like, if Jody wants to talk to me, have her call me. So I called him, and he said, we don't do cold calling. I expect my salespeople to do this. I said, I know you do. And I don't know how you can sell my product or service. There's nobody, it would take hours to train you. I said, I don't want to sell your product or service. I just want to open the door and qualify it for you. So I said, if I send you the Star Trib article, will you read it? Yes. We talked a few more minutes. I said, is it okay if I call you back? Yes. He actually physically gave me a time on the calendar. I called him up. I said, what do you think of this? He's like, it's intriguing. I said, yep, you and everybody else. And I just met with him last week and sent him a proposal. So
that's awesome.
Way back when people say that cold calling is dead, it's not dead, but you need to have the right person. So when year 4 or 5, I brought on a consultant that I worked with, and he did all the hiring, the firing, the training. And what he taught me, which it's so simple that it's dumb, but what he taught me is that a real professional caller has a very different wiring, skill set, and value proposition than that of a salesperson. Ours in 2 to 3 minutes is confirm they're the decision maker, capture their interest, get them intrigued enough, qualify them to make sure that nobody's time is being wasted, whether that be the client's time, and we represent ourselves as part of the client's company. So whether that's our time or their time, 2 or 3 qualifiers, ink the meeting, and get off the phone.
Yeah. Yes.
We then flip it to the salesperson, aka the expert. My best closers being owners, presidents, C-level, VPs, not the long line of salespeople, because those top executives are experts and whose value proposition wiring skill set is about a solution complex sell with intelligence. Mm-hmm. They are used to the long sales cycle. That would make us crazy. So really, truly, if you have the right skill set, and it's very hard to find people like this, but the right kind of people, we can open lots of doors. The question is, are you really the expert, and can you really close it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is it helps to spend the time learning how to do this. Like if this is something you want to learn how to do in your business, you got to like dig in. And Jody, you just went through like I know what we teach at Sales Camp, and it's really nailed down the key components, and it's not a lot of time on that front call. It's really like qualifying, saying the right pieces, getting that appointment, and then sending it. And some companies will do that. Some companies have like yours, right? Like you're setting high level appointments and then you're sending someone in to sell. Either you're super top 10% of sales professionals who solutions, or C-level. So I get that. I also know, so some of our listeners, are earlier on in their business. They might be, where you were at year 2 or year 4. And clearly cold calling worked for you then as well. Like you dug down and you figured it out. So I want to dive into that next. So we know you're an expert in cold calling. That's why we're all here today. I first want to hear a couple strategies that you would teach anyone if they want to cold call. So for our listeners, and then also any tweaks that you would recommend making given the current state of the business community right now because of the COVID-19 coronavirus. Yes, the pandemic.
Well, I would say be positive. Don't stop prospecting. And it's not, it is cold calling, but it's cold calling / prospecting / appointment setting. Because we have clients that say, we have this dormant database that we just want you to see if we can lift, bring alive again. So that's cold, but yet it's not cold. Mm-hmm. So the strategies are, you can't stop prospecting even during the pandemic. I mean, the remote thing, my team and I laugh. We're so ahead of the curve because we were doing this 20 years ago, but and it does take a certain kind of person to be able to work from home. But the reality is, with what's going on, everybody has to work from home. So business as usual. Set yourself up with an office. make sure you're making at least 5 calls a day, cold calls, to create new relationships. If you need help scripting, if you find that you just don't do it and you're much more of the salesperson, the solution complex salesperson, give us a call, look us up. I'm glad to help you. A couple of strategies that are very important with our clients is we have weekly conference calls. We really want them to keep a focus, a target. And what helps for us is we focus on our customers' processes, which means you have the conference call once a week. We send a call report out. Read the call report. Don't just, I know it's a lot of acronyms, but there's some nuggets in there. And read the call reports. Get on the phone with us. Update the Excel spreadsheet in Dropbox. Take advantage of the yin yang. The prospect goes dark on the salesperson. We'll take it over. We'll guide them. Don't be a jack of all trades, master of none. Focus.
So really act as a partner. So I want to just repeat back what you gave so far. So be positive. Don't stop making the calls. Make at least 5 cold calls a day, which I want to come back to. Scripting, like actually write out your script ahead of time. Right. And then you made a little offer of if people reach out to you. So we'll come back to that too. And then really, like, you work closely to create a process with your customer. And I think that's important for any company to every week be meeting with your sales team and say, where are we? How many calls did we say we're going to make? How many, did we make? Yep. At Sales Camp, we talk a lot about, like, because people ask me how many calls they need to make. And I'm sure you have a formula as well that you work with your clients. I mean, you got to back end into it, right? And right now you might need to be making more calls.
Yes.
To even get close to what you were going to do before. And yes. One of the things I'm hearing from some of my clients who are saying, people are like, they're canceling their calls right now because they don't know what's going to happen. And I'm saying, fine, like, don't let it cancel, reschedule it for 2 weeks out, 3 weeks
Absolutely.
out.
Absolutely.
Right? And then still get that call on the calendar. So I want to come back to a couple things, but I'm curious, Jody, like as your team is making calls now, any extra advice, like what are they hearing? Are they doing that same thing and still trying to keep calls even if they're pushing them out? Like, how are you handling this with your company?
It's very interesting what you just said, because I was going to say something and then I was going to say something on the last breath, but now I can say it. It's really amazing. I mean, no, not as many people are picking up the phones, and, I'm still not going to hide. I mean, yes, we're doing e-blasts or drip marketing for a couple of clients just to kind of see who's really interested out there. I have a COO that does a fabulous, like, knows how to write, knows how to put the right terms so people will open it and look at it. We typically are getting a 40% open rate from our emails. Yeah. But you can't hide behind those. You still have to pick up the phone. We're still dialing. People are actually really nice out there still.
Well, and I think, don't you think even more so? I mean, that's what one of my clients was saying. She said, like, not only are people taking her call right now, but they're like extra nice. And normally she would get some hangups on her cold calls.
Yeah.
No one's hanging up. They're just like, hey, we're not, well, and actually because of that, and she owns a franchise company, she's getting into companies she wouldn't have even gotten into before.
And they're saying things like, call back in 2 weeks. Let's just get through the initial crisis of this. But the clients that are hanging in there right now know the value of the pipeline.
Right.
And we're still building it.
Talk about pipeline for someone who's not quite sure what you're saying, and how do you build a strong pipeline? How do you know if it's a strong pipeline? Like, how would I know that if I'm a listener?
It's a numbers game, and we've all heard that before, but you need to be very professional, especially when you're acting like part of another company. So you don't want a bunch of people hanging up on you, and they don't on us. It's all about being professionally persistent. And then as somebody comes on, they have no pipeline, right? So they have nothing on the back end. They only have what they're currently working. Well, what happens if that currently working stuff goes away, right? So a pipeline is something, somebody schedules a minimum 20 hours a week of calling with us. If it works, you can always increase your hours. We have clients that have done that. However, you need to start somewhere. So the 20 hours a week, somebody says, no, not now, but yes, it's okay to call me back in 3 months, 6 months, a year.
Yeah.
That's about building the pipeline, putting it back into your system, tasking it, setting a date for a follow-up, and the numbers happen. They just happen.
Well, and so we talk about that too, that it's a numbers game, but it's also like you're also being very professional, very intentional. It's very focused. So it's not just I'm dialing. It's very scripted, very intentional. And I want to make sure people hear that. And then the numbers, you got to reverse engineer. If your goal is to hit 100,000 a month and your average, I'm just making this up, and your average sale is 10,000, right? Then you need 10 closed sales. If your closing rate's 50%, you need 20 qualified appointments. And for those of you who are listening, I've covered this in other past shows where I've done some solo shows. You can go back and listen to like the formula, know your formula. What Jody's talking about, if you're making 5 calls a day and you're making 5 calls a week, that's 25 calls in a month times 4, you've got 100 cold calls out the door. And so, and the other thing, Jody, like at Sales Camp, you heard me talk about to work on 25 at a time, because most of these companies, it's pretty small. Yes. It's really important to be calling the same companies until you get that appointment, right?
We do. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we for sure do. Yeah. Yeah. And we also generally, depending on the size of the company, we ask the client for 3 to 4 decision makers, because there's never just one person that makes the decision.
Smart.
And another tip that people want to think about is you could dial for dollars all day long. And you can say, okay, I'm going to dial 25 an hour. Out of that number, my contact number, which is the hardest number to give, could be 0 to 2. I'm talking decision makers, not assistants, not the influencers, but the actual person that you make the appointment with. And then out of that number, I'm getting this many appointments. What we really look at, and is in the Star Trip article, is the conversion rate. So my people typically are converting 1 in 3. Got it. Wow. Every 3, yes, it's way above it. I mean, they're professionals. So for every 3 decision makers, they're converting 1. Those are the important numbers. How good are you at converting? Because you may have a whole day of 6 or 8 hours of cold calling, which I don't know anybody could do 8, but 5-6 hours of cold calling and nobody picks up the phone. But tomorrow, 2 pick up the phone. Are you going to convert 1 of those? Yeah. So I want to go back. When you say 1 in 3 conversions, so they're out of every 3 decision makers you're reaching out to, they're getting 1 appointment. Correct. Okay. And so for our listeners, you're all going, wow, that is impressive. Yeah. I mean, this is what she does. It's what she teaches. And Jody, I know at the end, if there's companies out there who are interested in learning more on how to work with you, you're going to talk about that. For those companies that might not be in a position to hire yet, can you give us high-level scripting again? You ran through it, and I just want to make sure, because I know our listeners are like, what? Yeah. Just a few bullet points on how to have a good, solid cold call to set an appointment. Absolutely. So you want to open it up and always ask if they have a minute. And if they don't, tell them you'll call back, and try to not say what it's about, because a lot of them say, well, I don't have a minute now, but what's this about? That's okay, Mr. or Mrs. or Joe. I talk to people by first name. I don't do Mr., Mrs., Sir. I don't do any of that. So, thanks, Joe. I'll get back to you. So get off the phone quickly. The second thing is, in the dialogue, you want to open up. Do they have a minute? Yes. Calling on behalf of. Focus, not we're jack of all trades, master of none. Our focus is talk about cost benefit. So you're either going to talk about savings, or you're going to talk about how quick they're going to see a return on their investment. And maybe 3 points about how you stand out, why they should consider talking with you more or meeting with you. And go for the appointment. 2 to 3 minutes. That's it. Yeah, and then get off the phone. Lock that appointment down. Get off the phone. Yep. One thing we talk about Sales Camp, and I'm guessing you do something similar, but we talk about how, like, if someone starts asking a lot of questions, your prospect, you're not serving them by trying to, like, if they say, well, how much is this going to cost, or what, you're not serving them by trying to answer. The real truth is just to simply say, those are great questions. Acknowledge. I can't answer them right now because, someone on my team is going to meet with you, or I haven't met with you yet. Right. Please write all of those questions down so you're prepared. When we get together, I will answer all those questions, or someone on my team will. Yeah. Or don't give them a lot of time to, or you just really get off the phone. Exactly. I mean, you've got 2 to 3 minutes, and usually there's not a lot of time for questions. Yeah. But if they slip one in, we usually say, that's why we're trying to set up the meeting for Ursula. She's the expert. She'll answer. It's a Q&A. She'll answer all those questions. I'm just the marketing person.
Yeah. Right. Perfect. That was gold right there. For some of you, you need to go back and like write all of that down and
Yeah.
really lock it down. And
Yeah.
so for some of you, come to sales camp because you'll learn how to script there if you're not at the point to hire at Jody's company. For some of you though, if you're listening, you have a larger company. Jody, I want to move into you sharing a little bit more on how can someone reach out to you? How would I know if my company is the right fit for you to, set up?
Good question. Yes. How you can reach out to me is by going to www.yourpipeline.net, or LinkedIn, obviously. And how you'll know if we're the right fit. Professional services, mainly that falls under technology, med tech, med device. We work with venture capital and private equity groups that fund their portfolio companies and need their portfolio companies to work, or they're going to stop funding them. Financial services is touchy. We started out doing financial services years ago, which was banking, commercial insurance, financial planners. I think it's more of a LinkedIn referral relationship industry. What we look for in a client is what we call, after the famous Terry Slattery, what we call is a strong DV, which is a differentiating value. So those industries seem to have a strong DV. Or if you're some kind of a consultant, you need to have a strong DV. You can't just be like everybody else.
Right. Got it.
I figure that out by having a 20-minute conversation with somebody.
So that's what I was going to ask next. So if someone's kind of like, oh, I wonder if they could help me, I recommend just go to yourpipeline.net. Just go to the site. And is there an email address on there? What's the best way to reach you?
I think there is. I think my COO's is on there. It's Travis at yourpipeline.net, or Jody, Jody, at yourpipeline.net.
Okay, Travis or Jody at yourpipeline.net. Go to yourpipeline.net and just check it out. Well, I want to thank you for being here today with us, Jody. Of course, it's perfect timing right now.
Yeah.
And I just, we just wish you and your company and all your clients just the most success and the fastest rebound that you can imagine. And
you too.
Yeah, and I'm sending this out to, all of our listeners all over the world. I want to thank you for listening. Definitely, check Jody out if it makes sense for your company, or at a minimum, go back and write a script for cold calling if it's a good fit for you as well. And, for those of you who are out there who are in fear, I'm just sending you some love right now. I'm sure Jody is as well. Just love from our community. And I know we have listeners all over the world, and everybody's in varying levels of stress right now. So we're thinking about you. Just remember, we're all in this together. If there's anything we can do for you, please email us at contact@salescoachnow.com. Or if there's a show you'd like me to do, or a question, if there's something I can answer on the podcast, I'd love to do that for you. So, all right, Jody, thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Ursula. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Take good care, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Subscribe and ring the bell if you haven't yet. And if you want to check out more videos, tap the screen right here.